I'm with Anita Neal today, and this is The Short of It, and we're interviewing our poets for The Short of It anthology that's due to come out very soon. So, welcome, Anita. I'm really glad that you're here, and I'm glad that I get to meet you and talk to you and just find out a little bit more about you because I'm really jazzed about your participation in The Short of It, but I also wanted to get to know you as a person a little bit better too. It's nice meeting you first
Nice
for the
meeting you
first
as
time.
well.
Okay, great. Well, let's just jump right in. Um, Anita got involved with the short of it last year. September of 2020 is when she was featured. Um, and she has described herself as a writer who loves to explore the beauty we see. And you can find more of her work at her blog called For the Love of on WordPress. And it's Anita's Hope, .com, and it'll be in the link too in case I butchered that so people will know how to get to you. But let's just dive right into the questions. I loved in your bio that you mentioned that your books echo the beauty of life and her poetry tries to reflect the beauty of the photograph in the details with words. Can you tell us a little bit more about the books that you've published and where we can find them too?
Well, I've got two books that have been published through, they're on Amazon.
Okay.
They were, the first one was sort of a joke for my children, but it did so well that I wrote a sequel.
Sweet.
Um, and it's about dogs and how they see it when they get to heaven. So
Okay.
I'm a big dog lover. So it's what dogs are going to do when they get to heaven. You know, we had a movie when we were kids, All Dogs Go to Heaven. So I wrote a book about what they're actually doing in heaven. So it was a fun book to write.
Okay.
Um,
So did it have more of a like a comedic spin to it or just a very I don't know, a
uh,
loving, nurturing type of afterworld experience for them? What was it?
I think it's probably more of a nurturing with a twist in it. The first one was actually a back ended memoirs
Okay.
through the eyes of the dogs that I had growing up. So each dog has a story that they're telling about something that I remember from my childhood.
Aw.
So it's kind of a back ended way to do memoirs. And then when I did fairly decently well with that one. And then book two came out in the middle of COVID and it went nowhere. So, that
Oh,
happens, sometimes. Um, but it's more of a deeper challenge of what these animals are facing in heaven and how they're using their loving skills that dogs have to nurture newcomers to heaven and to help them get a firm foundation so they fully understand what's going on, because there are some of those that come to heaven that have no clue why they're here.
yeah.
Dogs, they're
Right.
coming from abusive backgrounds, they're coming
Mm.
from things that happened to them in their life, and how God uses all of his loving in all of his creation to mend and heal all people once they get to heaven.
Gotcha. Okay. So it must have
So
been, I mean, knowing that you love dogs, that must have been maybe a little difficult to go back and relive those memories with them or miss them. Did that evoke a lot of emotion for you?
it did, because the main character of the book was the last dog that I lost. It
Mm.
was a Great Dane, a Harlequin Great Dane. His name was
Mm.
Diddums,
Oh.
and he lost his eyesight. And when he did, he became so scared that we had to put him down so that he wouldn't hurt himself or us. I mean, he was 185 pounds.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, he's a great
you
Dane.
don't want 185 pounds being scared, you
No.
know. So,
I
so we had to put
Wow.
him down. And so the story is around him and how handicapped he was on earth and how the things he can now do in heaven that he couldn't do on earth, because he
Wow.
was blind in one eye from the birth. He could not hear.
Mhm.
So he just was very handicapped. And
Oh.
so
Well,
it was a fun book to write.
I bet. No, I'm excited about it because I mean, I could just picture the stories that you could have come up with, and probably emulates a lot of what maybe even humans would think or feel. Or, I mean, you could probably make it applicable to humans, is what I'm thinking too.
That was what I was trying to do. Those people that are really unsure that they are loved, to let them know you are loved. It does not matter what's going on in your life. You are
Hmm.
loved. There is a being in heaven that
Hmm.
loves you.
Oh,
And you have to tap into that love and understand you are loved.
absolutely. We all have value. For
Yeah.
sure. So, tell us a little bit about your journey with writing. How did it start? Did you end up where you thought you would? And what exactly are you working on right now?
Well, I never really thought much about writing, except when I was pregnant with my second child. I dabbled in it a little bit, but it never really went anywhere because I was busy raising kids. I was working full-time job, the normal things. So when I retired 3 years ago, I'm sitting around and I'm going, what am I going to do now? So, because I'm not a sit around person, I'm busy. I got to be busy.
Uh-huh.
So I started writing, and I've dabbled in poetry, I've dabbled in novels, I've dabbled in just different things of expressing love. I have an encouragement page that we started at my church during COVID, where people were just locked in their homes and were so scared and unsure and lost, because you think of the number of people that are extroverts like me that are now shut down and can't do anything.
Absolutely.
So my pastor asked me if I would write an encouragement page to go out 3 or 4 times a week to help encourage the members of the church. And I
Awesome.
did that. So, I pulled in scriptures, things that I read that are uplifting to me, and put in pictures, that things that, because to me, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And if I can tie a picture, that's why the poems that I wrote had pictures in them, because if I can tie a picture and words together, there are people like me that are going to get it better than just straight words. So I include pictures in with what I'm writing.
Oh, absolutely. I think the visual is so important. Um, Most of the people, or I think the first challenge I ever started off with was in interpretations where invited people with my visual prompt to tell me what their interpretation of it was, and they could express that however they wanted with poetry or writing or whatever. And it was beautiful to see what they saw, and it is
Yeah.
definitely inspiring. I know that for me as well.
Yeah, that's what I love so much about the WordPress community, is the number of people that throw challenges out there. What can you do with this? And I'm going, ooh, ooh,
Ooh, I don't know. Let me try. Let me figure it out. Well, I wanted to tell you, what I really enjoyed about going through your blog is I can see that kindness is just a huge deal for you.
It is.
And I really appreciate that, because that's one of our mottos in our home, actually, because nice matters. Um, I know that we're all human, where we don't necessarily always treat others well enough. So it's always
Yeah.
important to keep that in the forefront of their minds, I think. So I really appreciated seeing the kindness just
Thank you.
oozing through. But I guess my question to you in that regard is, who inspired that in you, and um, who do you inspire? Who is this for?
Um, I guess it's for anybody that's out there. Let me just give you a little bit about. I didn't have someone that inspired me per se. I had someone that negatively influenced me, where I understood what kindness was. I was in a very abusive marriage for 20 years.
Sorry.
So I understood what the other side was supposed to be like. So I try to make sure with any words that I create that I can show people there is a better way.
Yeah.
There is a kinder way. There's a way to get your point across without being negative, demanding, demeaning, and all of those things.
Hmm.
It's important to be nice.
Oh, I'm preaching to the choir. I agree with you 100%. Again, like I say, I don't think everybody is perfect and we do make mistakes, but I
Right,
think your first intention should always be leading with kindness because you don't know what other people's lives have been, what they've gone through, what they're going through.
right.
So that's a good thing.
you know and
Okay.
if you can in one sentence give somebody 5 seconds of hope, then you've done your job.
Hmm. Yeah,
you know
I agree with you. And how do you show that in your poetry? Like what is your style that you prefer, you know, broadcasting that?
I don't know enough about the types to be able to answer that. um, I get inspired by what I see, and I just start writing what I feel about the picture or what I feel about something that I ran across or
Hmm.
something that influenced me. And I just shoot from the heart.
Okay.
And then I'll go back through and edit it to where it makes sense.
Gotcha. Okay. So do you feel that it's more of a relaying of information or maybe sharing wisdom?
I don't call myself a very wise person at some of the dumb things that I've done. But if through my experience I can shed a little wisdom or a little light on what it did to me so that maybe you make a better choice or
Okay.
have a better outcome, if
Okay.
that makes sense.
Yeah. So you are an inspiration. You are a muse to somebody else, maybe.
Well, I would love to think that. I know that I get a lot of good comments from my church members, but I take that with a grain of salt because they like me because I am who I am.
Mhm.
It's a little different than a total stranger being inspired by something that I write.
That is true. Yeah. It
Yeah,
probably carries a lot more weight too, maybe,
yeah,
because they don't know what your intention is. They don't understand who you are as a person. So for them to
right.
be embracing it, yeah, I could see that. Well, um, so what have you found to be the hardest thing for you about writing, especially when you talk about the types of things that you care about?
Yeah. I ran across some poetry the other day that bothered me, and it's kind of the culture of where we are now. We're so much into the racism and the Me Too movement and the angriness of this country, that people are writing about that anger. And I just want to go, no, let's don't write about the anger. Let's take that anger and turn it to good and try to make it better instead of
Mhm.
harping on the negative and the negative. Let's find ways to make it positive.
Absolutely. But I'm wondering, do you feel that extremes, whether good or bad, do actually contribute to things getting better? Because people, when they get hyped up or they get really low, that's usually the time when there's a push for change.
I do agree with that.
Yeah.
There is, but you have to tread it with sense, with common sense.
Hmm.
You have to pull it into the good for everybody, not just me and this is what I need or what you
Hmm.
need. We have to come together as a large group of people and
Hmm.
say, how can we make it better for everybody?
Right. For the community. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I get that. I totally get that. Um, what have you personally, I was curious because this question came up in discussion recently. Have you ever been involved in any writing retreats?
No, I haven't. I have recently joined the Midwest Writing Center that's
Hmm.
here in Davenport, Iowa,
Hmm.
and have no idea what that means, but I would love to do that to learn more what I need to do.
Hmm.
And I've always questioned, am I wasting money? Am I good enough to really do this? I have written book 3 and I've edited it probably 10 times,
Yeah.
and I'm getting ready to maybe submit it out somewhere to a real publishing people because they say, "Oh, you can self-publish." I said, "You get nowhere with self-publishing that I
Mhm.
know of, and I want to see if I'm good enough to go traditional, but I have no clue how to do that."
Okay, my question then, you just sprung a thought in my head. Where do you want to go with your writing?
I don't know. I mean, I have to really think about that. I'm later in my life. I'll be 70 this year. I don't act, look, or feel like I'm that old, but I hope I'm here another 20 years. And if I can even, like, I'm speaking at a Christian women's business group next month, and my platform to teach them or to talk with them is about you can't let your age define where you are and who you are. You have to take the lessons you've learned to help inspire other people.
Hmm.
And so don't ever quit just because I'm old. No, you're still here. You still have a gift to give. So that's kind of what I want to do, but I don't really know how.
Okay. No, that makes sense. I get it. But I guess the thought that I had about, like where we decide where we're going to go, at least for me, I don't feel like I've decided. I feel like I've been led to do different things, just because of the choices that I made. So that's why I ask where do
Yeah.
you see it going? But like for instance, when people or businesses do their 5-year plans, do you think that that's something that writers are even capable of doing, or do you think like the example that I just gave you about, being led wherever the next step takes us is just where it ends up? I don't feel like I can plan 5 years out. How about you? Do you feel
I
that?
don't think I can either because there's too much of life that gets in the way or changes your direction because you may be all set up to write this wonderful book about whatever, and then something happens that totally changes. You need to write about this over here. So
Yeah,
so I don't know if a 5-year plan would work. I would like to at least, I would love for my work to sell, but I'm not in it for the money. Does that
hmm,
make sense? I'm in it for the
absolutely.
inspiration. If my words can inspire somebody, I would love to be able to sell enough for people to appreciate what I have to say, not to make money at it. I don't, you know, I'm retired. I'm okay on Social Security. I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it for the inspiration.
That's an awesome goal, in my opinion. I think you've maybe figured out the the route for happiness for you. And there's
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's got to be fun and it's got to be, enriching in some
yeah,
way in order for you to continue doing what you love. So,
yeah.
we've got, I know that I've told a lot of the poets that we are going to start opening up the short of it again for submissions, and it'll start in July. So I just wanted to remind you of
Super.
that. So please do resubmit stuff. I'm hoping that this year is going to be even bigger and better because the experience so far has been wonderful. I've just enjoyed reading your work. Everybody's work is wonderful. The featuring it, doing the features online and just letting everybody else read you too. I
Yeah,
have really enjoyed that whole process. So the
it's been a
anthology.
lot of fun reading everybody's work. It
Oh,
has
I know.
been.
And they're just wonderful. They're wonderful writers, and so far they're wonderful people. So I'm really been jazzed about the whole thing. So thank you for being a part of it. But I wanted to ask you, one of the things I wanted you to do is to read one of the two pieces. So which one are you going to be reading, the Monarch Task or Honorable Purple? They're both great.
Well, I was torn, and I looked at them again today, and I'm going. The Honorable Purple is more of a poetry leaning with rhyming and stuff, whereas the Monarch is emotion and tied into is gut wrenching.
Yeah.
So I didn't know. I was torn about which one to read, and I don't know. I was going to print these off, and of course my printer's not working.
Oh no.
You know,
Well, can you get it
so
up on your screen and
so I
and
get
read it
on
from?
my screen, but can
Okay.
you still see me?
I can still see you.
Okay, well we can do that then.
Okay.
Um,
It's all
Uh,
you. You have the floor.
let's do a monarch task.
Okay.
All right. The warmth awakens me, but I am tightly bound. I can't move. My lifeblood is pulsing through my veins, waiting to explode. My head is pounding and screaming to break free of this dungeon. Yet I can't move. As cracks appear at the top of this cell, bright light is filtering in. I push with all my might against the wall as the crack begins to grow. I feel the closeness of freedom. I can taste it in the air and feel it in the warmth of light. Pushing again, the binding splits, and I roll out the slit, stretching, feeling the ecstatic of freedom. The warmth strengthens me for my mission. My colors unfurl out, refracting the light on the leaves. Time is wasting. I must hurry. Only have 6 weeks of life at best.
I love that. That is so good because it's such a great metaphor for, you know, emerging from even a bad situation or despair or something
Right.
like that. And it's a renewal, basically. At least that's the way I took it.
Yeah.
I felt that it was just a
Yeah.
very re-energizing type of piece.
Yeah. There's a butterfly house that I went to once in North Carolina, and you could sit there for hours and just watch at different times the different cocoons would open. And I was so inspired, and I would just sit there for hours watching one particular the struggle that the butterfly goes through
Mm.
to break free, and then he stretches, and it was just amazing to me, and it really stuck with me. So that's why I wrote about that.
Well, I'm glad that it produced what it did because it's a very inspiring poem and just a very visual feel. And like I said, it's a struggle to kind of get out of your own life sometimes. So to have that kind of like a metaphor, I think that was very
Yeah.
appropriate.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That
You're
means a lot to me.
you're very welcome. I appreciate you for being a part of this because that's the kind of work that I was referring to before before I even really got started in this. I had seen so many people write so many good things, but it just felt like they weren't getting any traction. So I wanted to share this with people, and I know I have a pretty good following, and not, I'm not like Kardashian following or anything
Yeah.
like that, but I do have a lot of people who are seriously interested in reading good stuff.
Yeah.
So I was just really pleased to be able to be a part of that and, be a conduit to share some of that. So thank you for that.
Thank
I,
you.
I do appreciate it. So that's our time for today, and I really appreciate you taking it and spending it with me. This is a shout out to anybody who's really interested in the short of it. There's will be a link in the bottom so that you can see what we have to offer, what we're doing. This isn't going to be an every year kind of thing. We are I'm the one who's doing it, an anthology every other year. So 2020 is our first volume, the best of the best, called The Sound of Brilliance. And we will showcase people next year. Submissions start in July, and we hope to see more people become involved in it. And I,
Yay.
again, hope that you decide to resubmit some stuff too. So I really keep my fingers crossed on that one. Got some good stuff.
It will be fun. It will be an honor. It really will.
Thank you. I appreciate that you trust me with that. So I appreciate it. Anita,
Cool.
it was great meeting you,
Great
and
meeting you too.
I'll talk to you soon.
All righty. Take care.
You too. Bye bye.
All right. Bye bye.